recording. So I'll give a quick report along with sort of any of the folks from committees to talk a little bit about what's going on with their committees. And then the main item is kind of both a report back and a little bit of a discussion on the strategy meeting that the board had on Wednesday. And I'll review some of the kind of key themes that came out of that, and then certainly would be interested in anyone's kind of further feedback and thoughts. And then we always have member space, so if there's any other issues or kind of questions members want to bring up, that'll be the space to do it. So we'll aim to be done with the business meeting by 3:30 at the latest, and then gathering for those who are interested at Oak Ledge Park at 4 for some pineapple cash in a jar, amongst other things. So, all right. And before I dig in, I see Don Schramm also joined us. Hello, Don, and Whitney. Hey, Whitney.
Hi.
All right, so just kind of the quick overview report. So the last time we had a members assembly, it was March 5th, and we laid out a nice exciting timeline for the future that looked all bright and predictable, and then things within a week or two got much less predictable. So I figured I'd first give kind of a quick rundown of some of the kind of key impacts kind of from COVID hitting in terms of our activities and some of the strategic implications. And then also I did want to sort of mention that that one of our board members, Miles Linsmith, had just accepted a job in I think it was Jackson Hole, Wyoming. So he'll be moving at the end of the summer. So we will be looking for a board member to come on to take his seat after he moves, kind of in a month or two. So just if anyone has interest in that, to keep that in mind as we'll be looking. So kind of key overview of some of the COVID impacts. First was just that one of our kind of core goals that we articulated last time around was that we were going to really shoot for the collaborative brewing to be getting going and aiming for May, really as the goal for the release of our first collaborative brew. We had reached out to Switchback. They had expressed interest. We talked to some other folks as well. We were kind of trying to nail down who the collaborator would be. COVID really put that on hold. Sort of they kind of didn't say no at that point, but kind of pushed it off for a while. That has actually sort of since they seem to be back in a place where they're interested in pursuing it again. So I'm having a meeting with Sarah from there next Tuesday. And so fingers crossed, but hopefully we'll be back on track towards actually having some limited release co-branded stuff in the near future. So I will have more info to share on that front soon. Other big impact was really around events, right? So for the past 5 years of this project, a lot of our kind of the life of the organization has been built around getting together and drinking a keg of homebrew at various places. And that suddenly stopped being really as possible to do. So I feel like our volunteers got quite creative. We did the sort of Full Barrel Fridays as both starting as online events and then kind of having some socially distanced kind of get-togethers. The Bureau geocaching events have been fun, and we're doing another one of those coming up soon. Similarly, kind of socially distanced park meetups. We've done that a few times, and are doing one right after this. And then some virtual brew days. So Ted is brewing right now. We've had some brewing committee meetings where Wendy has been fiddling around in the background as we figure out some things. So really trying to sort of be as effective as possible in that context. And then in terms of kind of strategic implications, and this kind of foreshadows some of the conversation we'll get into in a little bit. But I think a kind of key question that's come up. So first of all, was the board made the decision to push the space timeline 6 months and say, like, okay, so let's we've lost a couple of months just all around, so let's kind of like push for more like a spring 2022 rather than fall of 2021. And I think that's still sort of an ongoing question, just in terms of the world is super unpredictable, and so what does it exactly look like? But that was kind of a decision that the board made. Another kind of like key question that I think is again, there's no specific answer to right now, but something that we're keeping an eye on is really that how big of a like permanent impact is this are the changes that are happening right now going to have on the way things like tap rooms are organized, the way that social spaces generally are organized? Is this something where it's really a temporary thing and things will kind of spring back in a year to more or less how they were, or are there a bunch of things that are going to be fundamentally different, that will be permanent shifts because there's other things going on under the surface too in terms of why they might shift and how that's going to impact our vision for what the space looks like, kind of what our sort of like aim for events looks like. All of those things are big, I think, are big questions that the answers are still very much emergent, but we need to keep kind of like flexible and keep a good perspective on on just kind of like what the future will hold as it becomes gradually more apparent. So that's my kind of quick summary of just sort of what some of those key things. The other thing is really sort of looking at beer itself and brewing, and I think we'll hear a little bit from the brewing committee members about that. But in addition to the kind of hopefully the collaborative brewing getting online again, this Cans for a Cause initiative that we're starting to push out around sort of being able to distribute homebrew in cans, sort of starting to play with some branding. And particularly Casey, one of our newer board members, has been doing some really great work on both putting together some labels and thinking about how some of that branding can look that can then hopefully carry over into stuff that we're eventually marketing. So that sort of, again, part of the shift from the in-person events with kegs to the distributing with cans really, I think, has been nudged forward by all of this, the COVID stuff. So that's my kind of quick high-level summary. And then, I figured I'd just sort of pass it around to folks from the committees if there's any additional kind of things that you're excited about, want to share, ask for the group, etc. Maybe starting with Eric, in terms of your thinking on business planning stuff.
Yeah, you want me to go through the whole committee report?
Yeah.
So, as Matt said, with the way things are, it's really hard to predict the future in terms of what things are going to look like and what our best options going forward will be. But at this point, we're moving forward with essentially two approaches. One is to continue to have our goal be the same, working towards that ultimate goal of moving into the North Winooski space, having the tap room, because it could very well be that about the time we're ready to open up is about the time the vaccine comes along. So we might be really well positioned to have this spot that we can cater to that local community that's finally able to go out and have this much needed social time. So we are continuing to work towards that. We're also keeping our eyes and ears out for some unique opportunities that might present themselves unexpectedly. So whether that looks like another local brewery that might be looking for somebody to take over, or possibly even share a space with another brewery, or just being essentially allowing ourselves to be open-minded about how we might be able to move forward. And if there's a situation that makes sense where we can remain grounded to our core values and still be able to operate as, and achieve our core goals of the community aspects and all that, it's worth just looking into some of those. Nothing's really come up yet, but we are keeping our eyes open. So for the business committee, we're working on kind of going through our budget, our business plans, and making sure that what we have for documents are accurate and ready to go, because if something does present itself unexpectedly that is just clearly the right way to go, we need to be prepared, and we need to have all of our ducks in a row so that we can move forward on that opportunity. So right now we're working on making sure that the business plan is accurate, that the numbers are grounded in reality, to see what all that looks like, to find that'll help tell us exactly what our total member goals and total member targets really actually need to be, as well as what to expect from the capital raise side of things. So that's going to involve a lot of market research. Previously, we had been working with the Small Business Administration folks. Clearly, they've got a lot more on their table, their plate now than they used to, because they're the ones, the folks that we were working with are the people who are doing the PPP loans and a lot of this COVID recovery stuff. So we are not really their priority at the moment. So we're shifting gears, and Laura's going to help with doing some market research on this, and maybe now's a good time to mention, so we're hoping to bring on an intern who's one of their responsibilities would also be helping with the business side and the market research side of things. That's about it at the moment. The real estate cooperative is set to sign their purchase and sales agreement, which kind of opens the gate for us to move forward on working with them to get the MOU signed. The MOU being the document that says that when the lease for the building is up, Full Barrel gets first right of first refusal. So they'll come to us and say, hey, it's time that we renew this. Where are you guys at? If you want it, it's yours. Otherwise, we'll move forward with re-signing the current people. And that's about it on this end.
Cool. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, any questions or comments for Eric before we move on to our next committee? All right. Wendy, do you want to talk a little bit about the brewing that's been happening and thinking on the brewing committee side of things?
Yeah, here actually I had Casey came over and he took a whole bunch of pictures here week before last, and that was a lot of fun to have him around, and he was really interested in the equipment and taking a lot of pictures and taking notes on how the process is and what have you. So like I said, tomorrow, next day, I'll be doing cash in a jar, probably a 5-gallon. And then we also ask everybody to take and write down what beers they'd like to see and what have you. And that was kind of an interesting survey. Like Kolsch and Lager, there was 4 people that wanted that. Brown Ambers, we had 3 people that had down. Lagers, we had another 4 people. Scottish, 2. Double IPA, we had 2. American Pale is 2. And then we had, anywhere between Red Clover and Stout and what have you. So what I'm looking at is coming up with different recipes and what have you, present to you so you can take a look at some of them and go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I have the list. So at the last meeting, I just pulled up the minutes from that. But so the kind of the list of kind of core beers that the brewing committee kind of narrowed down to after getting that survey done was the Cash in a Jar New England IPA, the porter and the transparent pint kind of pale ale as the 3 that we already identified. And then so the other ideas in terms of core things are kind of a rotating smash beer or single malt single hop, so kind of a hop of the month type thing. Kolsch or lager, something that's in that range, or kind of an amber brown, something that's very malt forward. And then kind of a Hefeweizen or a Belgian, that's kind of for folks who are more or less, again, those last 2 for folks who are less into the hoppiness specifically. There's some talk of sour, I think, but that's kind of like aspirational, as it's also kind of requires additional equipment and probably not the best thing to be kind of starting off with. Any other things you want to highlight, Wendy?
No, I think that's it. Yeah, and a smash recipe. I've come up with one for that. Those are fairly inexpensive to brew.
Cool.
Matt, can I ask, what was the beer that you guys had at Old Spokes Home? I think it was the Ramble. Remember, you had free tasting. There was a really good beer, and that was popular.
I think it was,
remember what.
Wendy, I think it was maybe like, what was it, the Spice Ale?
It was Matt's shitty beer.
Well, there was that was there too.
It got such rave reviews. It was cracking us up.
Oh, really? That was.
That's my
We called it the MSB.
It's Matt boils a 7 pounds of Pilsner malt and like adds like 2 ounces of Cascade hops, and then ferments with the cheapest of Munton powdered yeasts. That's Matt's shitty beer.
Oh, and that's what everybody liked, huh?
People enjoyed that one.
It
I think there was another one that Wendy made. It was a golden something.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, yeah. It was like golden, was it barrel aged golden or something
Yeah.
like that?
Yeah,
Yeah, that was
I
good.
think that was
I
from
like that
the
one too. Huh?
pop-up thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it comes out of the keg that's right there.
Hey.
Oh.
Yeah. In fact, I hate to tell you, I just ran out of it
Oh no.
yesterday. So I'll make some more. Yeah, that was a golden lager.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other minor update was so the Black is Beautiful kind of fundraiser beer. It turns out that that's going to need quite a bit more aging before it's really sort of in ideal drinking territory. Wendy, do you want to give a little update on that?
Yeah, that's one in which actually we went online because I tasted it a couple times and one of my sons said, wait a minute. And so he went out online and he said, wait a minute. They're saying that this one takes, a good 4 to 6 months for it to really turn out right. Because it's a very heavy, very dark beer. So I haven't tried it here in a couple weeks. So I'll test it again, but that'll be coming along. As soon as it's ready, I'll release it.
Yep, cool. All right. Any other questions for Wendy? All right, so memes. Who wants to give a little sort of memes update?
Matt, you did a pretty good job in your overview on kind of the struggle we've had with events. The big update kind of from March to now with memes is just that Jess and Casey have brought really amazing energy to that subcommittee. We are the marketing events and member engagement subcommittee, which is why it's memes. Well, that and it's funny. But to have Casey come in with that expertise in marketing is just like refreshing. It's something we've struggled with for a long time. And I know Russ, when he engages in this committee too. So it's just been really nice to have that brought back with the focusing marketing. And then Jess with this energy towards social media has been really helpful, as well as Whitney's energy towards social media. So Whitney's been generating some nice focused reports on what posts get a lot of traffic and how we can kind of adapt and make that better and improve those. So I think at the last meeting, it seems that Whitney and Casey will have a good kind of partnership in trying to boost our social media channels. Casey's in a marketing class right now, so he'll be using Full Barrel as a case study, which will be really nice to get to like benefit off his education. And the geocaching events are really fun. I hope everyone will come out for the Spirit of the Ramble geocaching event if the weather's agreeable, and we'll all end with some sizzlers, which are really delicious if you eat meat. Yeah. Any questions for memes? I did have a question, Matt, if at some point we can get the executive structure of the board, like people's roles and positions.
Oh, yes. Yep, so it's myself as president, Eric as vice president, Jess as secretary, and then David as treasurer. Oh, and Wendy as jester, of course. Yeah, anything else anyone wants to share about what's going on with memes, or?
I mean, I'll just add that we're trying to plan the holiday something. We just don't know what it's gonna look like. So.
Yeah, that's a theme. That's a theme.
Yep. I
Um,
imagine the phrase pivot will be used at some point.
Pivot, 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 pivot.
Yeah, like I just decided to start planning it like normal so that we could pivot.
Yep.
Laura, are people going in the store yet when we talk about the holiday pop-up?
No, we don't have the customers in the store. We're still curbside. Yeah. I don't know how much, I mean, I don't know how longer, you know, with everything spiking, we just decided not to open up in case we had to close back up, so.
Yeah, exactly. And I am really curious to see what all this curbside and outdoor stuff is going to look like when it gets cold, which is going to happen. Even though it's 1,000 degrees out today, it's
Right.
going to get cold and dark here. So,
Like full body, like onesie jumpsuit snowsuits are gonna be really fashionable this winter.
That's true.
yeah.
On that note, though, we are teeing up a scavenger hunt, which we did shelve. We were going to do it in the summer, but I felt that it was, well, the memes team felt that it was probably good to have that on the back burner for when things get dark and cold.
Mm-hmm.
So to have things that like are like geocaching events, but people can do on their own and still engage in like a social connection via our channels.
Yeah. So yeah, we'll see what kind of creativity is going to be required for the you know, the not outdoor seasons. Okay, cool. Any other questions or comments on marketing and events before we kind of move into the strategy conversation report and discussion?
Oops. Oh, shoot. Wait. No, I didn't.
All right. So yeah, so the board meeting this month was kind of, you know, different than most board meetings in that we decided we wanted to, like, you know, really block it out to have more of a big picture strategic conversation, thinking about, you know, organization overall, you know, what are both in terms of like what are kind of like any weak points we need to address, and what are things we need to change in terms of the current situation. And I did review a little bit of some of the thoughts, but I figured I would give a summary of a couple of the key items that came up, and then I'd welcome other folks who were there to, you know, throw out anything that kind of really resonated with you, and then kind of open it up for discussion. I'd love to hear kind of what other members are also kind of thinking in terms of both these issues, or if there's other issues that are kind of immediately on your radar. So the first one that came up was really kind of, you know, and this is something I think we, you know, off and on kind of has been a challenge, but this I think David's framing of it was around kind of human capital management. So really sort of how do we, in terms of the volunteer energy and, you know, and everything else, how do we actually sort of both in a more consistent and systematic way organize and kind of direct the sort of energy that we do have, like, in the most productive way possible, both in terms of, like, you know, frames of like avoiding leaning too much on people that in a way that kind of leads to burnout, but also kind of sort of figuring out if there's ways that more members who could like pick up one or two small things that would be like, all right, it's an hour a month to do like these things, kind of sort of in a way aiming to in the near term prioritize actually like mapping out what are all of those things we need done, and then making it easier for people to sort of plug into those kinds of structures. So that was the kind of like short-term thing that came out of that. Sort of a longer-term thing was also the kind of strategic question of, okay, so when we're kind of getting into like, all right, let's drive towards opening mode. What does it look like, and how do we want to structure forming a team, the sort of launch team in a way that's like really motivating and can bring them deep into the process. And at what point do we want to do that? How do we want to structure that? How, in a way, like, are there opportunities to essentially have them be bought in some way beyond sort of the basic co-op membership? So that's the kind of like bigger, longer term question of looking at some of these breweries that do start where you're like, okay, you have a couple of founders, they're like really ready to go, boom, 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 boom. They put in the focus and the time, and then it's there. So how do we want to strategically approach that? So those are the two things on the kind of human capital side. The other piece was really saying like, really wanting to prioritize, and this was already something we were focusing on, but especially now that in-person events are harder, like getting branded beer out in the wider world. And so that's, the Cans for a Cause is sort of a push on that. And then, this kind of potential for sort of, collaborative stuff with Switchback is a push on that. But really that question of, okay, if we can make it generate a little bit of revenue for us, that'd be awesome. But like at very minimum, just getting it so that folks can see our logo, they see friends and get a can of beer that has our brand on it. That is being something that in this moment is even more important than it was before. So those are kind of two things I kind of wanted to pick out and highlight for folks. For others who are in the conversation,
I thought I had my earbud.
Highlight as well.
Oh, I'll move this in case anybody wants to sit there.
Oh, hang on. Like Heather just there, I'm gonna mute her for a moment. Oh, Peter, and you're muted. Looks like you were talking.
No, Max is asking me 50 questions over here.
Okay. So yeah, so Jess, Eric, Peter, any beyond kind of what I covered, any other things you feel like would be worthwhile to sort of put on the table?
Well, just to revisit, one of the big changes I mentioned is to address some of that human capital side of things was that addition of an intern, which would be the first time that we did this, because there's a certain number of tasks that are really can be handled by anyone, that can be just done ahead of time, Facebook posts, some of the email stuff, some of the just, some of these tasks that would be, like, there's no point, it just be better to delegate them to somebody. So Casey is going to be reaching out to the Business of Beer folks, UVM. He's actually, I guess, taking some classes with them.
Mm-hmm.
So he is going to be putting me in touch with, he's going to be putting me in touch with somebody from there who is going to hopefully get us an intern. Casey volunteered to mentor that intern as well, which is awesome. Just spend a couple hours. He's really, I thought to make it really interesting, he could, maybe Wendy would be willing to show him some of the stuff on the brewing side. Laura offered to work with them on some of the business side of things. So between this whole group, I think that whoever does it could probably get a really valuable mentoring experience, just working with Casey on the social side, Wendy, Laura, working with different people. So that's good. But nobody on the board responded to my email. I sent an email out asking for three potential tasks.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That we could use.
Like near the waterfalls and stuff, yeah.
But I did get an email back
like,
from Laura
where the
saying
power
yes, they'd be willing to help out, but nobody else responded to my email. So if you could please do that, I want to start putting a list together so that we can create a job description for this potential volunteer.
Cool. Peter, any reflections from the conversation?
I mean, the only thing that I would add is that for so long, a lot of our business model is really centered on this idea of building community. And as we think about, the notion of what our value add is to the market, as that has been sort of our big push, is trying to figure out how to keep a toehold in that. that even in the new normal or whatever the new abnormal this is, how do we continue to sort of push and stress the idea of community?
Laura, do you have any kind of thoughts on that conversation you want to share?
No, not really. I think, yeah, I think having an internal help, but also I think as we really start to gel a business plan, I think that'll be helpful as well. So I'm looking forward to working on that.
And Jess, anything you want to share? Oh, we're not hearing you, so maybe I'll.
I'm unmuting myself.
there you
Sorry. Hi. I'm just really excited for this potential collaboration with Switchback. I think it'll be a really great step in getting something tangible out to members and getting our name and ourselves in a bigger audience. So I am looking forward to getting an update from Matt after you speak with Sarah for more on that. And just
Cool.
a lot of good energy and good stuff.
Great. So beyond just kind of what we've covered, I'm very curious to hear if there's and members who are here have either thoughts around what are things we should be thinking about, or what are things you're sort of concerned about given the current sort of world situation and our approach to this, or ideas as to things that we should be pursuing that we haven't been currently. So we'll just kind of open that up to any reactions to what you've heard, or just other ideas that are rattling around. This is just kind of an open space for you.
This is Kirsten. Hi. I know this is always kind of a concern or conversation, but like income generation, I think our current only income model is membership.
Mm-hmm.
So have we done any sort of like, I guess it's tough. I know David isn't here right now, but like income models for how long we could carry Cans for a Cause, like sustainably, if we get like for every round of Cans for a Cause, we should recruit at least this many members, or
Mm-hmm.
with that, like with such a basic income input output currently, like, because I know there's costs with the cans, the labels, and then the beer brew, like that up against how many members we should have as a goal per output. And I even think with the Switchback partnership, it's not really income, right? It's sort of like marketing partnership. And that's
There's a possibility there could be some income on that. It would be like, in the neighborhood of like $50 a month or something if we're doing it monthly. So very minor, but like.
I love the Cans for a Cause model. I just would love to see like that up against like that inspiration or that motivation to be like, this is how we keep doing this, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think you'll have a better grasp of cost for ingredients, but it's probably about $50 a 5-gallon batch, somewhere around there.
Yeah, darn close to it. Yeah.
So we would need 5 new members every time we do Cans for a Cause in order to break even.
No.
We don't get the donation money.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I think you're right that modeling out the Cans for a Cause thing and also seeing what the final arrangement with Switchback could look like, because on the one hand it's like, there's the sense that the revenue isn't the most valuable piece of that to us. Just the sort of exposure would be huge to be able to have like a co-branded can going out or something like that. But at the same time, we also definitely, it would be nice to have a source of like relatively consistent revenue that would be coming in through something like that. So.
Well, every time we kick the tap room opening can down the road, like obviously COVID is a great reason to do that. But
Right.
like every time we do that, I'm just sort of like, so how do we, with like this constant or consistent kind of downtrend of no members for a little bit, having that be our only income and then just spending,
Mm-hmm.
how do we
Yeah.
start creating those models or those visuals to be like, this is how we stay afloat?
Yeah. So kind of modeling the runway, so to speak.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yep. Go ahead.
Are we done talking about that?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
think in general, just to go back to board organization and duties and everything, like I'm very happy to co-chair a committee and have my involvement be at that level. I have kind of been struggling to understand what exactly is expected of me and what the board is expecting and whatnot. So I think that I would find it helpful to have a little bit more of an understanding of where that breakdown is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I think that's I think one of the things we're going to be aiming for with this almost like mapping process, if you will, to sort of say, okay, so here's all the roles, here's all the things we need to be done, how do they connect, and try to make it more legible versus the sort of like, okay, this needs to be done, who might be able to pick up doing it, right? More systematic. Other reactions, thoughts, ideas?
Hey Matt, Heather here. I guess
Hey,
one
Heather.
idea in hearing you guys talk about like the switchback collaboration to give the cooperative a presence. I'm wondering if through the board and through members, if we have any connections to any food manufacturers, because as we know, what goes good with beer is good food, whether it's cheese or something or not. And just in kind of in my past work with specialty foods, I just wonder if there was an opportunity to partner with a well-known food brand to give us a little bit more visibility with their followers and vice versa, where we could do something. Maybe it's like every quarter, or, you know, I don't know if it's every month, whether it's like a, hey, come to the farmer's market where this cheese vendor is, and like while you're there buying cheese, also get some of this homebrew that we've got available if you guys have beer available. Or I don't know if it's a virtual thing where it says like, hey, we're going to do a virtual happy hour where like, you know, go to your local store and pick up this product and pair it with this like type of beer, like a beer cheese pairing. And I just say virtual because of the situation we're in now. Hopefully, you know, in the future we could do things in person. But like, I think that could be an interesting opportunity where it could be like co-hosted. So the responsibility doesn't just fall on this group, but it's shared between us and the food manufacturer. Because if you think about all of these farmers markets that are smaller in size, all of these food festivals that have been canceled, there's a lot of brands out there who rely on big boosts in summer sales that they're not getting right now. And I just wonder if we could, elevate our visibility by recognizing and reaching out to them and stating, you know, we recognize that you're probably looking for further opportunity to get out there in front of customers because of so many things being canceled or postponed for the summer or the fall. Could we do something together?
Okay, yeah, that's worth bringing up maybe in my conversations with Sarah, as we think about what exactly this would look like at Switchback, but also
right in the middle of
Like I have now become
but also with the kind of Cans for a Cause stuff as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Other thoughts, ideas?
Along the same lines of what Whitty was talking about with the kind of clarity and roles, and I think you were hitting on it too, and like how do we sort of fine tune our workflow process, I think you were talking about, with like clear guidelines and duties and like what needs to happen. I think that kind of along the same lines of like the charge of memes, or I just see a lot of opportunity with and a lot of overlap with business planning, memes, and the brewing subcommittee, and how do we kind of like integrate those efforts in a better, more efficient or effective way. And I don't know the answer to that, but just like putting that out in the space versus like the same people going to all the meetings, like how do we start to promote like solid workflow and good use of our human resources in that way as well.
Yeah, in many ways, I feel like the members' assemblies kind of, you know, functionally are oftentimes that kind of like meeting of key people sort of who are active in different committees, and it's a sort of chance to, you know, have more of that direct cross-pollination versus the sort of like board meetings, which are like there's report backs from it, but it's not at the same level. And I wonder, you know, so maybe if we're almost going to do, you know, a board work session where we spend a couple of hours just kind of hammering through, you know, building a list and and thinking about systems of collaboration, both in terms of actual sort of like meetings and encounters, but also just what are the systems that could better integrate those conversations when it's helpful.
Something
And I
else-
wonder too if we can incorporate members of, the subcommittees, maybe not just members of the board, to kind of cross-pollinate, as you say. I mean, maybe it's gathering to think about, Kirsten, you had mentioned like marketing and self-promotion, and maybe it's just gathering ideas across all the different channels to help come up with like, our Facebook calendar as a team, and thinking about different ideas that we can, promote and that sort of thing. That's kind of outside of these individual committees meeting.
I know that we were also doing like newsletters every month or every other month or whatever it was. But maybe that's a chance where the leader of each subcommittee writes a little paragraph for the newsletter to be like, hey, this is what we've worked on in the past month. This is where we're going to be working on this next month, or something along those lines, just so that there's like, so we can see what sort of different things are happening in between the members' assemblies.
Yep. Yeah, I like that idea. It just sort of like and could kind of go in not just the MailChimp, but also kind of some of the other channels as well, to just have like, here's the little update, here's what we've achieved in the last month, here's what we're looking to hit in the next month, and then, and then kind of iterating in a just consistent way. That's
Just adding to what Michael said, I used to work on those monthly newsletters, and it was such a like great kind of focused task to get a pulse on what exactly we were doing. So even the monthly, like the requirement of a monthly report out from the board is such a nice structure or framework to kind of like find out where you are right now. You know what I mean?
All right. Any other sort of thoughts, and and also kind of on the the both the specific stuff, but also just generally, like what are you seeing in your crystal ball? What should we be thinking about for the future, if you have ideas around this more longer term planning, as we start thinking about what is actually a useful space, what is a what like should we shift our focus more potentially to distribution, whereas previously we were really thinking like taproom sales were where the vast majority of what we were dealing with would be. Like, does anyone have thoughts on those lines?
Yeah, it might be interesting if we try to look at this from, okay, we need to take an iterative approach, right? We need to scale up instead of just jumping feet first into the deep end here, given everything that's going on with the world. I'd be interested to see if there's, kind of riffing off what Heather was saying about maybe a food vendor, if we could somehow, if we were to become like the exclusive beer provider for a certain restaurant or food cart or whatever it may be, like if we can partner with a place and be able to say like send people there, it's the home of, I don't know, maybe Old Spokes wants to get a license to put a bar in the bike shop, and it could be just if we could find a retail commercial distribution channel as a partner with being the exclusive beer of an event or a space or a location, it might be a good way to scale ourselves up a little bit, get a little revenue coming in, get a little name recognition. Just an idea. I don't know if that would be, maybe that doing something like that would hold us back too much, but just an idea.
Well, so one thing that immediately comes to mind when you say that is in the next couple of months, the Oak Street Co-op building is going to be coming online with Cafe Mama Juana in it for dinner. And I could definitely talk to Maria about the idea of you know, if we were having the collab brew stuff in the short term, even like, all right, well, keg of that Switchback goes and is like is on sale, and we have kind of like, you know, a full barrel night once a month or something like that. And if we can kind of prove that there's demand there, like almost build demand, you know, around the corner in the neighborhood, and then when we're ready to expand, we expand off of that, but like would give us some sort of almost virtual presence.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, can you have beer, like taproom pop-ups? Because, you know, all that, but also, isn't Ida, and I know Faux, they're both BYOB, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, can you do pop-ups around them? And with our takeout laws, does that make it possible to do something like that?
I think that goes back to the if we can attach an official address to a beer license, we can sell wherever we want. I mean, we can get a permit to do a sampling or a permit to sell cans at any event. We can create our own events, and so. But that comes back to the issue of, okay, so where's our brewery license? What address is going to be on our license?
But it's beyond that. We have to have the physical brew house built out. We won't be licensed until we built out the brew house. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
We can't sell anything unless it's collaboratively brewed, you know, through somebody who already has a license, like the Switchback collaboration.
Right.
We can't sell anything that we produce until it's produced in a licensed brew house.
Oh, right.
So if Switchback decides that they really like us, maybe they would distribute a keg or two for us.
Well, we could easily do some kind of contract brewing. If it was brewed there on site, and it's co-branded, you know.
Yeah, that's the low overhead kind of approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I think talking about a runway, Kirsten, that would, and Ted, I love the Velo Cult idea, but also that's actually, you know, we have looked into getting a license to serve at the shop, which we have, you know, because we do during the Fundo and stuff like that at our events. But yeah, it's expensive, but it's something that maybe, you know, yeah, maybe if we did it together or something like that, it might be worth it. And again, we may have an in-person Fundo. We have surveyed our customers and people want it. So we could, you know, but I think that's a great idea. Do pop-up kind of sales around the neighborhood with your Switchback partnership.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think strategically that I'm really fingers crossed for this conversation, because I think, you know, we can start very small, like they've been doing like 5-10 gallon pilot batches, so we could start with something and kind of prove it, and then if it's proven, we can kind of have further strategic conversations around what would it look like to sort of expand or make something consistent. So fingers crossed on that one for sure.
Yeah, and let me price what it would cost to for the shop to get something, like you said, Peter, if it was brewed by someone else and we just served it, because we've looked into that, and then it might be, you know, then maybe you could have pop-ups out of the shop so for people going to Ida and Faux.
Yeah, that could be interesting.
That could be fantastic when you just think about that little cluster, like one Friday night a month, if we were able to sell cans out of there, especially to people who are going to those two joints.
Mm-hmm.
Can really see that.
I can look into it.
Cool.
See how much.
All right, so looking at the time, we've got about 5 minutes, 5 minutes before 3:30 when we're looking to wrap up. So that just kind of put out one more, just, you know, anyone who's has an idea or thought and hasn't thrown it out yet, and then we can kind of move into a closing round. So any final thoughts on this conversation?
Farmers market sampling, is that something we've ever looked into? I know that's how Simple Roots started out.
I mean, we're back to the same issue with we can't.
Well, we can sample if it's homebrew, right?
Maybe we could sample homebrew.
Yeah,
but we wouldn't be able to get a market stall. Not in Burlington, at least. There's already a wait list.
Yeah, but Winooski, Essex, Shelburne.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, again, it's almost like if we can get the the collab brewing thing, especially, suddenly like that might open up some additional opportunities.
Also,
Okay.
Eric, for farmers markets for this summer, anyway, it's late, but there are restrictions on site consumption at farmers markets right now.
Oh, good point. Good
Mhm.
point.
Yep. Any other things before we move into closing round here?
I'm really, really grateful to all of our board members. Thank you so much for your time, sweat, and tears that go into every monthly board meeting and all the planning involved to keep us going. So
Well, Kirsten, Miles is coming off the board, so your spot's back open.
looking at Ted. How you doing, Ted?
I saw that coming a mile away.
Right. So let's move into sort of closing round. Any thoughts, reflections on the meetings and what's been discussed? Any sort of things left unsaid or final ideas? So maybe starting with Wendy.
I think everything's running smooth. We just need to keep moving forward.
Great. Ted, final thoughts?
I'm just lurking today. I'll think on between now and the next one.
Don Schramm.
Oh, hey, Don. You here?
See if we can unmute you. There you go.
So we're just hanging here, listening to what's going on, waiting for the day when we can open one of those beer cans with full barrel beer in it. Barbara, you have anything to say?
No, about the same.
Thanks for being here, guys. Heather, you want to go next?
Oh, sorry. I think I just heard my name.
Yep. Any final thoughts? We're just doing closing round.
Oh, I guess kind of what I said before about like partnerships with others, and it doesn't necessarily have to be around events, but I just think, in my own line of work, sometimes like my voice or message can only be so loud, but when you share it with somebody else, you can share the work, you can share, the volume of your voice. So if in thinking of the collaboration switchback, if there's just other things we haven't considered, whether that's partnering on the activity or doing something but at someone else's venue, so that again, like they're the location, they're also co-sharing, co-promoting it. So instead of the cost of them sponsoring something, they're kind of more just offsetting any expenses we might otherwise incur. And like, it makes me think about like the company Sticky Brand. I don't know if you guys have ever used them, but I've used them for some events. They'll give you, like, if you tell them how you're going to use it, they'll give you pretty much like 500 stickers for free. And just like, they want you to obviously tell people where you got them from. So I think just kind of considering through all of our networks, if there's possible partnerships that in the year ahead we could consider that could elevate and bring more attention to just what this group is, I think that could, hopefully attract more members and more interest in how this group grows.
Cool. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah.
Whitney, you want to go next?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add. If you're coming to Oak Ridge, it's probably crowded, but you can actually park like all over my neighborhood. No one ever seems to realize that. You can even park at my house if you want to. It's like a 20-minute walk.
All right, for all the non-bikers.
Oh yeah, for all the non-bikers.
Laura, how about you? What any final thoughts?
No, that's I'm not going to make it, unfortunately, to Oak Ridge. I'm on the island, so but enjoy. I'm going to swim here, so sorry.
Mike,
Are you gonna drink a beer while you do that, Laura?
Yeah, I will, and I'll think of you all. Yeah, but I won't be. It won't be the pineapple cash in a jar, but I'll get the next batch.
No, I thought this was a really good turnout for the members assembly. It was nice seeing people kind of roll in as they could. And I'm excited to see people at Oak Ledge.
I'm gonna go hand deliver a pineapple cash in a jar to Laura and swim in her island location. I'm just kidding. my final share was my final share. I spoke at the beginning of this, so I'm excited for it.
Jess?
Just really excited for some of the things we talked about, and excited to really get something tangible out and, cash for can and our Cans for a Cause. Just looking to, just excited. There's a lot of good momentum, and I'm just, gonna say that again.
Cool.
And Heather, sorry, one more thing. Heather, to your point, I think partnering with organizations is a great idea, and maybe at some point, like, we can chat about if you have some ideas for who would be a good partner, like given, your expertise in that realm.
Yeah, totally. I would say too that the Vermont Specialty Food Association, is an organization that is growing in their visibility on social media. And I can see that some of those businesses are, thriving, whether they're doing, or some the opposite, they're hurting because they're not able to get their product out and they're looking for ways to get it out.
Mm-hmm.
Not all of them are doing online sales, but those who are just trying to find how do we get more people to our website. So if we partnered with them somehow virtually, maybe we could help them at a time where they need it. And again, we could help ourselves.
Hopefully you hit your
We can help each other. Yeah, totally. I think it's great.
Thank you, Jess. Eric, final thoughts?
Not particularly. Just Wendy, are you coming to Oakledge?
No, I'm not going to make it today.
Did you have, I probably should have asked this a couple of days ago, but did you have anything that you needed to, any beer that you were sending down there that you need me to pick up on my drive by? Or did that already, it might have already gotten picked up.
Yeah. Peter's got the stuff.
Okay. I should have communicated that a little better earlier, but.
Cool.
Okay.
All right, Peter, final thoughts?
No, not much to add. See some of y'all down at Oakledge, and I'll have the beer in tow.
Cool. Yeah, and then for myself, looking forward to Oakledge, and I felt like today was a really useful conversation and follow up to our board meeting on Wednesday. I think there's some additional kind of fleshed out ideas and vision for some things connected that hadn't quite connected in my brain before today. So really appreciate all of you sort of being here and taking the time, and look forward to seeing some of you soon and others of you slightly later. All right, so with that, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Where are we meeting at Oakledge?
We haven't actually determined the exact spot. So do we want to?
I'm gonna
Peter's the
vote
one
for
with the
meeting
beer.
by water where it's cooler.
Yep. Yeah, Whitney, you
I
live
like
close
that
by.
secret gravel beach down past the upper pavilion.
Okay. So meet down in that direction.
Is that down by the volleyball courts?
Yes. So like if you go to the upper pavilion and then just follow that bike path to the right, it takes you to a cove with like all the rocks with the great sunset views.
Cool. All right. So we'll plan on aiming to meet up in that vicinity. Cool. So motion to adjourn. I saw Whitney enthusiastically raise her hand. Do we have a second?
I second that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks. Great meeting all.
All
Cheers.
right.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.